This is a great one.
Well, here comes the campaign. And
What would you say?
File.
Sun, like S-U-N, yeah. These are- So you can- so that- so there's no bunch. Stroll, and if you have a party, you should. Right then. And it might even- whoever has something. You know, God forbid. It's coming. Coming over to your house. Little baby in my life. Oh,
Football. Sleep.
You ready, Vice Mayor? Almost. Okay, we'll wait. All right. Oh, we'll get rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the special city commission meeting for January 2nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Here.
Commissioner Parnas,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Here.
Mayor Gantz.
Here. We'd all stand for a moment of silence in our Pledge of Allegiance. And as we do that, if we can keep in mind former city employee Tracy Spencer Jr., who passed away, longtime Deerfield Beach resident Debbie Wilson, the victims in the tragedy in New Orleans, and Randy Perkins, the Ashbrit founder of his local company headquartered here in Deerfield Beach, who passed away. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
If we could have approval of the agenda tonight for January 2nd, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Parnas, seconded by Commissioner Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Madam Clerk?
For those attending via Zoom online wishing to speak on the item, please click raise hand at the bottom under the reactions tab, and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by Mayor Gantz. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand, and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Gantz. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *6. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney?
One and only item on tonight's agenda is a discussion regarding city manager recruitment and potential action regarding shortlisting of candidates. My understanding, I think we have our representative from MTG Consulting on. There's Jim. And I'll let Mr. Deneen from MGT Consulting take it away.
Good evening, Commissioners. And Happy New Year to everyone, by the way. Tonight, I will go over quickly, and then we can talk about whatever questions you have. As I gave the earlier update so that the public could understand, we did an extensive search. We ended up being out advertising for 4 weeks, closed December 9th. Got a great response, got 90 applicants from 20 different states, 58 people were from Florida. I sent you that complete book, and in that book, what it had was a list of all the candidates, applicants, I should say, that applied. And then it showed 9 candidates that I thought were qualified to some extent. And of the 9 candidates that were qualified, after my review of all their resumes in depth, and I spent almost an hour with each person on a private interview, face-to-face on Zoom, I came up with a list of 6 of which I appear to be that would most meet the needs after looking at knowing your organization and also through the personal interviews that I had with each one of you. I can go through that process. I will tell you maybe a way to sort of sum this up is that each of my interviews are pretty in-depth. It's more of an art than a science after doing this for as long as I have. I look at things like and discuss with them and go through their resume on things like their technical skills, their people skills, their communication skills, their education, all this stuff we try to check out too. We've also done our backgrounds, our preliminary backgrounds on social media, regular media, and references. We look at their education. We will verify that. They have to pass that background test, which all the people I'm talking to you about tonight passed. A big thing with me is a couple of things. One is they have to want the job for the right reasons. To some people, this is a good job. To other people, this is the good job. The good job means a lot, I think, when a city's looking for somebody that they want, that really will put their heart and soul into the job. I also look at, because I think in this case, you really need somebody that's mature. I'm looking for somebody out of that, this being the right job, that has some thought that they're really going to commit themselves to the city for a reasonable period of time, so that this isn't someone that's, trying to stop off at a job. One thing we do screen out of applicants that come to Florida, it happens once in a while, not as much as you think, but some people thinking, well, I'm coming to retire. We're not interested in bringing forward candidates like that, because that's not what the city's looking for. So I've already weeded that out. Another thing is how well I believe, based on their experience, they'll be able to understand beyond what the commission asked them, the citizens' needs, which they're going to have to understand clearly to manage the city. I have to look at their ability to manage people, and there's all kinds of issues in managing people. I'd like to know what their budget skills are. I also want to know, in a big city like this, what knowledge they have of utilities, which in engineering and construction, which also has to do with procurement and contracts, and also labor negotiations, and their experience with that, and especially in the whole what understanding they have of public safety. That includes both fire and police. So I go through all that, and out of that, like I said, 6 people rose to the top, and this is all in relationship to how people compared to each other, given the resumes that applied for the job. You ended up with 6. You have to look at it this way. You have 2 candidates that are currently employees that I interviewed, and in both cases, I saw no reason why you wouldn't, and all you're going to do here is consider whether you're going to interview them. Both of those people clearly, I think, have the skills, and I can talk in more depth on each one if you'd like, but are probably candidates that obviously tonight you have to decide who you're going to interview in person. So really what that leaves you with is only 4 people that are not of your organization. So that's why your number's at 6. How many people you want to get to interview in person is up to you. The most I've seen people do is 5. You could probably do 6. It usually takes about an hour a person, considering you got to sequester people. You bring them up. This is the public interview. And then after they do their public interview for about 45 minutes, you sequester them. But then a lot of times the commission will want to bring them back and grill them some more, especially either between candidates if they're not sure, or sometimes on the finalists. They want to ask some additional questions that maybe were generated through all the discussion of all the candidates. So the nice thing is you have a significant group to choose from, and obviously my job is you have to decide who you want to hire. Under Florida law, I'm allowed to help you decide who you interview, and I think of the candidates that applied, you have 9 that are, I would say, qualified, but 6 of those are more qualified than the other 3.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak?
Thank you. I have a brief statement and then I'll go into my concept of who I would be interested in interviewing and why. In reviewing 2024 and the decisions made by this dais, I have some serious challenges for the city manager going forward. As mentioned earlier in the year, staff continually recommends the lowest cost option in recommending vendors. While I understand the fiscal responsibility we all have, on numerous occasions, the low-cost bidder has cost the taxpayers more when the final bill for the project has been completed. All too often, unforeseen project delays, cost overruns, and substandard unorganized projects have not only made this dais and city staff look unprepared and incompetent, but have frustrated our residents to no end. This is unacceptable and must change in 2025. The initial bid is important, but should not be the low-cost bid is important, but should not be the most important decisions. Experience, qualifications, and professionalism must be taken into higher consideration. If one bidder has undercut the competition by hundreds of thousands of dollars, that should be looked at as a red flag, not an automatic positive. Earlier this year, this dais was presented with numerous options to complete our pier. All of the presentation was very, very narrow in scope and focused solely on the engineering point of view of the project. We made the decision to get the project completed as quickly as possible. I'm now questioning that decision. This dais was never presented with information regarding how the closure of our pier would affect our businesses. We were never provided information on how this would affect our centennial celebration. 6 months later, we are blaming the Director of Economic Development or the Director of Engineering, when it is our decision that has adversely affected our business community. I blame the city manager at the time. The responsibility of the city manager is to ensure the full picture of a project and how it will affect the entire city is presented to the dais so we can make a well-informed decision. We are now 6 months from our centennial celebration, and I need staff to see if there is any way we can get our pier open, even if partially. I know our current city manager has been exploring some solutions for securing funds to help our businesses, and if we have time today, I'll ask him to expand on that. I've talked with Mr. Denon at considerable length, looking over the various candidates. And I really feel that the number that we should look at is probably 4 candidates to interview. Definitely the 2 internal candidates. They have proven their work ethic. They have proven their abilities. And the other 2 candidates that I would be interested in would be Randy Cross and Jason Davis. While the other individuals, his top 6, do have, very good qualifications. The one individual from Texas, even though he's the city manager there, I think their population is like 8,000. So it's a much smaller city, and all of his experiences is in Texas, which I really think, Florida politics is a lot different from Texas. And then the other individual, Jerome Wilverling, he's from California. And again, he's a county administrator. He's got a strong financial background. But I think, as I said earlier, that I think our city manager needs to be a visionary, needs to be someone that really can think outside of the box, and give us the full picture of a project and how it's going to affect our city, as opposed to, the small scopes that I feel that we have been presented over the past couple of years.
Thank you. That's District 1. District 2, would you like to go?
Thank you, Mayor. In consideration for the city manager's position, there are a multiplicity of categories that we must explore. What was particularly interesting to me is, as I went through the candidates, it began to unfold a narrative. And, we're looking at people that on one hand, they have the academia to support them in applying for this, the things that I was looking at, the ability to communicate with a city like Deerfield Beach, looking at the dynamics of our city socially, you know, what person aside from the academia would be able to communicate with our residents? Who best will be able to assimilate into what we're building here in Deerfield? Now, that's difficult because most of the candidates have not been here. I'd like to say I agree with my colleague, Commissioner Hudak, and his careful consideration, because basically that's what I came up with. The two internal candidates have demonstrated over and over again that they are capable of doing a great job and relating to the residents. And that's really what we have to consider. It's not just picking a person, but will that person be able to serve our residents? The people in Deerfield Beach are pretty fickle from a lot of different positions, and they want someone that's going to come in and to make a difference in their city. And well, that expectation should be there. So I agree. I think it should be narrowed to 4 candidates, starting with the 2 internal candidates. And I too like Mr. Cross. And you know, and if you notice that Mr. Cross does have an impressive resume. He has a doctoral degree that is not a, this is not a knock what I'm going to say. It's not a PhD, but is EDU, but he has a doctor. He has a doctoral degree. Equally as well, Mr. Davis, Jason Davis. Under my notes, I have here through the resume that he presented, there is a demonstration of good leadership skills. And it was the same for Mr. Cross, and that's how I arrived at the candidates that I did. So in agreement, to reiterate, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Hudak, narrowed to 4, and my 4 would be the 2 internal candidates, Randy Cross and Jason Davis.
Thank you. District 3?
Well, I agree that the 2 internal candidates impress me the most. I would like to, wish I could interview some more of these people personally.
You
I
will,
see
sir.
one of these gentlemen has moved from dispatcher, jailer, police officer, police fire marshal, arson investigator, public safety communications, emergency management director, and all of that in 15 years. And it goes on and on and on at different jobs. And I'd like somebody with a little more stability that's been on a job more than 2 or 3 years overall. If they're going to come in and replace what we have, they have to really show me that I understand the average city manager in this country lasts 5 years. And I haven't seen any here. Of course, our present employees that are vying for the job, it hasn't been open for 5 years. But seeing what I'm looking at, I think we can come down to 4 without too much of a problem.
Okay, who are your 4?
Rodney Brimlow, Horace McHugh, Randy Cross, and Robert Heminger.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a lot of notes too, so pardon me as I go through this, but let me first start by saying that there's many qualities in a potential city manager that I was looking for, and I don't think any of the resume hits all of the buttons, although I think it would be almost impossible to do that. The biggest qualities to me are one, public safety, two, finance, and three, procurement. I think those are three attributes that a city manager should have. And then the fourth, which to me is an intangible, is communication. I think you have to have great communication skills, not just with your electeds, but with the community as well. And you're not going to be able to evaluate the communication skill, I think, until you get into the one-on-one and the group interviews. I don't think that's possible to do from a paper resume, to be honest with you. So those were kind of the qualities that I was looking for as I was going through them. And then there was kind of because all 9 actually have interesting attributes. I think in the ideal world, I'd want to interview all 9. And I want to thank not just the 9 that have been shortlisted for us, but everyone who applied, but all 9 in particular for going through the process and interviewing and knowing that this is a public process that they have to go through, and that their information is going to be made public and they're going to be scrutinized publicly. So I appreciate all of them for wanting to participate through that process and choosing the city of Deerfield Beach in particular. But it's not feasible to interview all 9, in my opinion. I happen to agree that 4 is the magic number. I think 3 may be a little too few, and 5 may be a little too many. So 4, I think I could live with that as well. When I was going through this, like I said, there's some very interesting attributes that all of them have. But if I had to pick 4, I need to ask, my colleagues a question first, because I have my top 4 and it's very similar to everybody else. But I just want to be, clear, that Mr. McHugh is on my list, but he was, for lack of a better word, demoted by this commission from interim city manager back to assistant city manager. And I just want to make sure that if he's shortlisted for the interview process, that he gets a fair shake. I don't want to put him through the process just to put him through the process. That wouldn't be fair to him. It wouldn't be fair to us as well. So I think I heard my colleagues say that they had him on the list. So I'm going to assume that means he's going to get a fair shake, just like everybody else does. They all start from 0 and we work from there. And that's exactly the way that I would want it. And he's on my list. But if the 3 votes that demoted him don't see him as city manager material, then I really would prefer to fill that slot with someone else to interview. So if someone is really bent on him not being city manager, please say so that we can interview somebody else and not, make a spectacle of this process. So that's what I asked. So my 4, assuming that we're all going to give Mr. Brimlow a fair shake going forward, and I know I will. What did I say?
Brimlow.
That was a Freudian slip, I guess, right? Well, I'm looking at my notes and so I apologize. So in numerical order, my 4 selections would be 1, Rodney Brimlow, 2, Randy Cross, 3, Jason Davis, and 5, Horace McHugh. And that's nothing against the other ones. They all have interesting attributes, but if I'm forced to select 4, those would be my top 4.
I agree.
Thank you. I was looking for a little bit more of a broader spectrum. First off, all excellent candidates. I want to thank the recruiters. Mr. Denini, excellent job. Really good talent that we've got here. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And as the vice mayor stated, that everybody had something that made them extremely appealing that the others didn't. So it's a very interesting group. I was looking to move 6 forward. I think no matter who we move forward, if there are some, as you can see, that line up that the majority wants to move forward, there's others that don't fall into that category and we'll have to make those decisions. I think anybody that moves forward deserves to be treated fairly and evenly. So whether it's someone we know or someone we don't know, whoever makes it to the next stage, we need to go in there with everybody with a clean slate and base it on what we have in front of us at that point. I was looking at moving 6 forward, but I see that they obviously feel as you guys are looking to do 4. It would be Rodney Brimlow, Jason Davis, Robert Heminger, Jerome Wilverding, and also Gina Fiandaca. I thought all of them had some interesting qualifications. While some of them might be serving in cities that have a smaller population, their experience is with some in other positions that are on a much larger scale at some of the cities that they've served for and even the counties that they've served for. So I think those are the ones that would fall that I think for consideration right now. Commissioner Preston?
I wanted to thank my colleague for bringing out the situation involving Assistant City Manager Horace McHugh, because it is the right thing to do, is to let's air this out, put it on the table, because if you can't give them a fair shot, there's no reason to go through this process. But I will tell you this, Vice Mayor, although I don't always agree with everyone up here, I trust their integrity. I don't really believe anybody would just knowingly just go through the process and not give a fair evaluation. If I thought that, I would say that. And if there's a feeling that that cannot happen, we need to talk about that. But it was the right thing to bring it up. It's the right thing to discuss it. It's the right thing to debate it. I feel like, in the challenges that we've had in our city, knowing the challenges with big projects that we're having, infrastructure, employees, that sort of thing. I've seen all of the internal candidates do a very good job on that. Mr. McHugh have done a good job. Mr. Brimlow has done a good job with that. If I could not fairly evaluate Mr. McHugh, I would have never picked him. And I don't really believe any of my colleague would have picked him either. So, but if there is a feeling, since it's been brought up, if we need to discuss that, I think that we should discuss it.
Okay, based on my count that I have here, we've got 1 candidate. So if we go with 4, we've got 1 candidate that has that 5 of us agreed to move forward. We have 3 others that 4 of us have agreed to move forward. Is there any other consideration to go beyond 4? Or is that where you want to stay with it? 4. 4. 4. Okay, so majority is at 4. All right. Any other guidance that you need to give us before I open to the public?
I don't think so, Mayor. It's really up to you all, the process that you want to use to make the selection.
Sounds good. Okay, anyone from the public care to comment on this item?
Good evening, Tom Plout, 3920 Northwest 4th Court, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, staff. This is probably one of the most important decisions that you folks are going to make. The city manager position is so important. It controls so much of how the city runs and how the people perceive the city. For one, I do have faith that all of you will make the right decision. Not being privy to all the resumes that are out there right now, I kind of see it like this. I kind of see it like a scale, like a balance beam, okay? And the person that you choose really has to have their heart and their soul into this city. And if I were to take each person's heart and put it on a scale evenly, and on the right side of the scale were the 2 people that already have not only their heart, but their soul in this city, and that soul would be represented by a feather, I would drop it on that side of the scale, because those folks are already here They're doing the job. They live here and their heart and their soul is in it. A lot of other folks to me seem like maybe they might have their heart and soul in it when they get here, but they're basically looking for a job. And so that's my conception of it. But again, I think that all of you will make the right decision.
Thank you.
Progress.
Karen Shelley, 190 Durham D. I really feel we need to look outside of our city for a city manager. For many years, we've seemed to be very inbred. I think we need new ideas. It's nothing against the incumbent or any of the local people. It's that I think we need somebody from outside looking inside. I also want to say that in 60 days, 60% of this chamber could be new. At least, at a very minimum, 40% of you will be gone. So it makes no sense to me that this even is occurring, this situation, this discussion is even occurring. As the interim and assistant city managers are on the short list, what's the rush? Who in their right mind would apply for this position right now if they didn't live in this city? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Hirsch, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. You know, I'm really happy that the Pelican in this week's edition published a lot of things from the candidates. So I'm going to read something that potential District 4 Commissioner Tom Plout said in an article in the Pelican.
To the picking of.
Yes, it is, Mayor.
Thank you.
And I quote, "The new city commission will select the next city manager, a position that will be critical for our town's future. As your commissioner for District 4, I pledge to leave no stone unturned to find the best person for that job." Now, interestingly enough, the city of Fort Lauderdale is conducting a search as well, even as we speak. And I would like to read from an article that appeared in the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce newsletter all about this. And I quote from the article, "A new city manager is necessary," Bernadette Norris Weeks said. "I am not sure what the city commissioners are looking for, but they have created a search committee so that citizens and business owners can make that decision. The 7-member search committee convened its first meeting in mid-August, selecting a chair and a vice chair," Dan Lindblade said. "There's a search firm recruiting candidates," he added. "They will make recommendations to the search committee and we will interview those recommended candidates, narrow down the field to finalists, and submit those to the commissioners to review the manager." Now, here's the most important part. The finalists will not be identified until after the November national election. That was done on purpose, Lindblade said. The commissioners didn't want the current commission to pick the next city manager. They wanted the newly seated commission to make that selection. So let me ask you all a hypothetical question. What happens if 3 outsiders win in March? If that happens, no one knows if they will be philosophically aligned with the new city manager. But if the current commission is okay bringing in a guy that may be fired in 3 months, so be it.
Daniel Shinetsky, 34 Keswick B, District 3, Deerfield Beach, Florida. I think you're doing the right thing. I like what you're doing because you're taking somebody with maybe experience and you're also taking people with the outside. So you're blending, and that's what you do in a search. You take people that have experience. It's like with the government, with the federal government right now, you still have directors and people, and then you have new people. And I think this is a good blend. You're looking at experienced people, and we'll need that because even when the new commissioners come on, we want to hit the ground running. We need people that maybe have experience, but you're also looking at outsiders who, if they're that qualified and they have that wow factor and that leadership, you may gravitate towards them. So I like what you're doing, gentlemen. I like that you're looking at the old, the experience, as well as the new. It's a nice blend. And I don't believe in extremism,
rid of the old or get rid of the new or take the new in. I think the best choice is always moderate, to look at both paths. And I like the way you're doing this.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Philip Bradley, 4330 Northwest 12th Avenue. I don't know what the qualifications of all the candidates are. It's a tough job to look through all of them. There's a lot of details, and I understand that. But if all their other things are equal, I think that it's in our best interest as a city to hire from within. And the reason I say that is because it gives other members of your staff and that work for the city hope that there's a chance for them to move upward within this organization. And I think that's an important point, and it gives for morale for the employees of the city. So that's basically all I have to say. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Chauncey Chapman, 191 Northwest 47th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. And I want to start off with an apology. I do not have the item I want to reference. I will send it to each one of you, and you can ignore it or dig into it as you choose. I've had an opportunity to manage several $1 million worth of tiny parts. They're moving in and out of a corporation developing life support products. It was critical that we not lose parts, critical that parts were the right size, that met the requirements. There's an organization called the American Production and Inventory Control Society that documents best business practices and trains people and organizations in those practices. They saved us millions of dollars. There's another organization called ASQ, the American Society for Quality, and they were very helpful in implementing ISO 9000. ISO 9000 is something that you might want to take a look at as a framework to document best practices in the city. ISM, Institute of Supply Management.
Is this?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm learning, Bill, I'm learning. When the government reports on business activity, it comes from ISM. ISM structures procurement, purchasing, and management of supply chain. There is an organization that does this for city positions. And I forwarded a copy to, can I say Commissioner Drotsky?
Sure.
But I neglected forwarding it to all of you. They have a oath of ethics. They have been in business for 100 years, building knowledge, building training programs, and training people to be city managers and other city positions. Take a look and see if anybody has any of that training in their background. You'll have it tomorrow morning. And if you hire someone new, or if you hire the guy we got, take a look at pushing them through the education process. It would be a benefit to Deerfield Beach to have standardized practices in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
Judy Stanich, 2257 Deer Creek Elbow Way. It's great you're doing this big search. I really admire that. That's a lot of work. But I can't hardly think that there'd be anybody better for the job than Mr. Brimlow. He knows the good news about the city. He knows the bad news about the city, and he's already in place. He's got a great team, and I just think he'd be the best person. And we're going to have a busy year with his birthday year, so we need somebody who's tied in, and he knows all the players. So I think it'd be a lot easier and better. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ava Swenson, 810 Southeast 7th Street, Deerfield. First of all, I'm going to apologize. I was at the Apple store for 2.5 hours and my notes are not combined like they were before. So if I kind of stumble around, it's a technical issue, okay? I've lived in Deerfield for 46, almost 47 years. And Deerfield Beach is right now in a very pivotal time in our history. The city manager's position is more important than ever. And the citizens of of Deerfield Beach are watching all of us, okay? How we conduct ourselves. They are interested in what our city commission and especially our city manager is doing, and especially going forward. We have several big plans for Deerfield. Hold on, technical. We need a city manager that gets out from his desk, gets in to the communities and knows what the community thinks. Yes, he might not always agree with us and we may not always agree with him, but the thought process is there. He can then tell people, this is why I feel this is important to do it this way. It gives people a comfort level that someone is at the helm watching over not only our finances, but our projects and listen to us. It's not going to be blurbed out on social media with all kinds of nasty stuff and untruths. That's not the way Deerfield Beach should go forward. Deerfield Beach should go forward with respect, dignity, with a city manager that knows how to do that. Now, I have respect for Horace. I'm sorry. But Rodney has a proven track record. He was police chief, he was safety commissioner, whatever. He has a respect for Deerfield. He loves Deerfield. He's got a proven record. He's a person of character, someone that holds city employees accountable, which many residents feel that isn't always happening, but he has started to do that. So, commission, it's very important that you carry out how we need to go forward. And that's with Rodney, with his organizational skills. He ran a budget for the city of Deerfield's police department. He was already involved with the safety as part of Deerfield.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Good evening. My name is Chad Cheladin. My address is 109 Southeast 13th Street, Deerfield Beach, District 1. The hiring of the next city manager should be delayed. I'm greatly troubled by the current mayor and commissioners of Deerfield Beach choosing the next city manager for Deerfield Beach. Their previous promotion, was an abomination with budget increases and endless project overruns, project failures, and a focus on social welfare and grants and not on infrastructure, spending controls, and curbing waste. On March 11th, 2025, the residents and property owners in Deerfield Beach will be electing a new mayor, a new District 3 commissioner, and a new District 4 commissioner. That's the majority. The hiring of the next city manager should be delayed until a new majority of the dais is elected. It would be wrong for the current dais to select and hire our next city manager. The city hired MGT Consulting and Mr. Jim Deneen to conduct the search for the new city manager. In last week's commission meeting, Mr. Deneen said the most important part of the search is to hold in-person interviews in order to find the person who matches the chemistry and culture of the city government. That means the mayor and commissioners, the dais. When 3 of the 5 seats on the dais are getting new faces, the chemistry and culture are going to change drastically. It is incumbent upon the current mayor and commission to delay the selection and hire of the new city manager until the newly elected are seated on the dais. In the meantime, the city has an interim city manager. This is too big a job, too big an expense, too important to the city's future to leave in the hands of the outgoing dais, who all agreed the next city manager must fit into the chemistry with the dais and the culture of City Hall. Mayor Gans is out. Commissioner Bernie Parnes is out. Commissioner Todd Dresky will be out as the District 4 Commissioner come March 11th. Now, since every time I've spoken to this dais, my suggestions are dismissed.
I had a problem with Todd Drosky and your former city manager and Mayor Bill Gans talking about forming the new emergency management department. And I argued with you guys in 2 meetings that we are a local municipality. We're not the county, we're not the state, we're not federal. We pay millions of dollars to BSO to handle our emergencies. The county will handle it. And so Rodney Brimlow was given that nice job in that department that was created after he retired from BSO. And now he's been,
Thank you, Mr. Chaladen.
now he's here as the city manager.
We're aware. Thank you. Yeah, we are.
You're a
Thank you.
smartass.
You can leave, sir.
No, I'm not leaving.
No, you can leave.
No.
You can leave.
No.
Yeah, if you can't conduct yourself, look, I'm not a 65-year-old man that you can beat up outside somewhere. You can leave, okay? You're not gonna leave?
I'm not.
Okay, if we have some order here, please.
Chad, just go quietly. You don't want to lose it. Chad, just walk out with them.
You can't handle the truth. Thank God your 16 years are up.
Yeah,
You're the worst thing to happen to this city.
thank you. I'm sure the voters have disagreed with you.
Have to vote because you won't change it to the normal election day.
Thank you, Chad. Be careful. He's got a record.
Is that Chad Stevens?
No. Anyone else? You sure? Okay. Let's go ahead and close it to the public then. Who wants to go first?
I'll make a motion that we interview the 4 identified candidates being Rodney Brimlow, Randy Cross, Jason Davis, and Horace McHugh.
I'll second that motion.
I'm sorry. Let me just double check my notes here. Say that one more time.
Sure, that would be Rodney Brimlow, Randy Cross, Jason Davis, and Horace McHugh.
Okay.
And I second it.
All right. We have a motion, a second. Before we go, anyone else, any other final comments? Anyone?
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Drosky and then Commissioner Parnas.
I'm fine voting on the motion, but I think we need to establish procedures after this, are we interviewing them privately? Are we going to interview them publicly? Are we going to interview them privately and publicly? And kind of set a timeline for this going forward. I think we need to establish that as well. If we want to do that after the vote, I'm fine, but I don't think just voting should end it.
Okay. Commissioner Parnas?
I'm a little upset what just happened before we get to the vote. What this gentleman is suggesting is that this commission go home, take a couple of months off, put their feet up, and wait for the new commission. A plane could crash on Hillsborough Boulevard, but we want to wait for the new commission. No, the city runs now. The city runs every day. The decisions are to be made by this commission from the day it started to the last day of their office. Not say, well, we'll all take a 2-month vacation, a 3-month vacation, and wait for the new board. The new board can take anything we've done and cancel it. They have that right. So even if we appoint a new city manager permanently, the new commission can fire him. So there's no need to wait saying, oh, a guy will get the job and then get fired. That would happen anyway. If he doesn't do the job, the new commission would have that right. But if he does do the job, are we supposed to say, well, let's all wait another 3 months and meanwhile do nothing for 3 months because the new commission's coming? No, the problem is now. It has to get solved now, like every other problem in this city. If there's a project that's not going well, it's up to us to fix it, to demand that it get fixed, not wait for the next commission. You elected this commission to run a full term. That term doesn't end until March 11th. Just all we're asking for is the respect of the voters who put us in office and those of us that have served many years and worked hard to do what's right for the city. When the new commission comes in, they may agree and they may disagree. But that's in March. The problems we face are now. And so it is proper that we vote and get the city manager as soon as possible.
Thank you. As far as privately or publicly on the interview process, I think we've done it. I think it's probably best to do it publicly, in my opinion. I think doing that, it gives gives us an opportunity to educate the public as far as what our decisions are and why we're making those decisions. So if trying to figure out whether we're going to do it privately or publicly, I would say that the interviews need to do publicly, at least part of the interviews. I mean, we can do some privately if we'd like. Maybe we can do a combination. Is that possible to maybe do a private one and then a public one as well?
Why not?
I think it's possible. Obviously, the private ones are going to be individual meetings because you both can't, two of you can't meet privately with them.
Right.
But I think it's possible. And, I defer to the recruiter if he has any thoughts or comments on that.
We could do it as special commission.
If I could add,
Yes.
my experience under the Florida Sunshine Law is that you have to decide publicly. So there's never a reason not to have the interviews in public and have them all taped. Everybody I've ever been involved with, the public feels that that's transparency. Everyone can see how the person answered. They can hear the answers. They can review. It's easier for the commission when they make a decision one way or another to show why they decided that way. You're allowed to do a private interview. Some cities do that. The new way for most of them that do that is that it's up to the individual commissioner. Usually they do it a day or two before. I will tell you, people are moving away from that and just doing the public interview. There has been some backlash in some cities, some blowback about, private discussions that the citizens are not party to on why you hired somebody. So the public interview always works the best. The other thing is, I will provide some questions for you if you would like. I would like the commissioners to give me some questions, but one of the ways to do this that really is transparent depends how many questions you want to ask each candidate. Usually with 5 people, you'd ask maybe 2 or 3 per person. That's 10 or 15. I always like to get the commissioners to send me suggested questions that they really want to dig down on. And then I can put together a list for that morning that no one will have seen until that morning. And I really think that is I think it's fairly important, but I really think it's important when you have internal candidates so the questions, in other words, if you have the 4 candidates, they'd be sequestered, bring them down one at a time. They would hear the questions for the first time at the dais. And by the way, as I said earlier, I think nothing's better than seeing how people respond to questions in front of you, because that is the job. But then after they answer the questions, they're re-sequestered. That way, no candidate hears what another candidate said. And like I said, if I give you the questions that morning, no one had an opportunity to see those in advance. I've never had any situations where that has not been worked out favorably for the commission, both in who they picked and the transparency that the citizens believe they saw.
Okay. Does that help anyone's decision as far as, I think publicly sounds
I think
like.
publicly sounds like the right way to go.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. History has a chance of repeating itself, or tends to repeat itself. Back in 2009, when I first got elected, we had a city manager that was elected with maybe a year before we took office, in which we had the mayor, the District 4 commissioner, and the District 1 commissioner all up for office at that point. You had a changing of the guard at that point, and they had no problem selecting a city manager at that about a year before. This one's a little tighter, but you still need to move forward with it. As was stated by a gentleman from the public tonight that is a candidate, they said that I'm learning. Well, if you do have 3 new people up here, I can tell you their job is going to be trying to learn their job. They're not going to have the expertise to tell you what a city manager should do, especially when you look at some candidates that have barely been to any meetings before they decided to put their name in the hat. So in my opinion, you've got years of experience sitting up here that can tell you what you should look for in a city manager, more so than somebody who's barely attended a few meetings, never served on any boards, and doesn't know that, and is going to have their plate full with trying to learn a new position, which is being a city commissioner or the mayor. So I think the expertise up here is a benefit to the city, and I think it still needs to move forward and happen. We've been through 3 city managers since I've been sitting up here. We had Mike Mahaney, we had Burgess Hanson, and we had David Santucci. And in that time period, you know, that is a lot of time to have only 3, because that's not the usual lifespan of a city manager in most cities, certainly not in South Florida. But, and there are exceptions, of course, but I think, you know, moving forward with this, it is the right thing for us to make the decision to move forward. I think we should have the votes publicly. I think, or the interviews public. And I think the 4 that have been brought forward are the ones that had the highest mutual votes from what we did internally. So we have a motion and a second. Do we want to amend the motion to include that we're going to have public interviews?
I'm not adverse to that. That's fine. I will amend the motion to say that we'll have public interviews.
Second.
Motion and second. Does that satisfy everyone? We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
No.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gans.
Yes.
All right, we'll work on scheduling those interviews with the recruiter. And do you all have a preference, or you want to give any input on whether you want to have like a special meeting
Yeah, I think.
for those interviews?
Yes.
That's what I
Yes,
figured. I
I
just
think
wanted
so.
to ask. Okay. Understood.
Thank you. Okay. Is that it?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.